Discovery says it is a moral and legal obligation to protect its employees against COVID-19. The Johannesburg-based company has made this decision to protect its employees. Well, we're joined by Vlok, a conflict and employment dispute specialist, to talk more about this issue. Andre, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View on eNCA. I guess companies like Discovery believe they are well within their rights, and as Discovery says, it's got obligations to protect employees in terms of insisting compulsory COVID-19 vaccination.
Afternoon, and I would agree with them that they have the correct understanding of their rights and obligations. Obviously, as you can imagine, and as we see around us, there is another side of the story. So it's important. It's good that they've taken this decision, I think.
But to enforce compulsory vaccination is not just a straightforward process. There are a couple of things that have to be taken into account. For example, top of mind for me would be the company has to ensure that if it's enforcing it, that it's got protocols in place and procedures in place, and that is complying with a number of other laws. But there are people who have legitimate reasons why they don't want to take the jab. Those could be religious, and those are their constitutional rights.
The constitutional rights argument is, in my view, not one that would stand the test of time, although, you know, we will need to see. But you're right as far as the processes are concerned. The prudent employer would have a policy in place, or see to that they have a policy or get one, where there are layers to this, layers of consultation, layers of counseling even, where people with legitimate exclusions, I mean, medically there are recognized categories where people can be excluded, and where alternatives, which is another very important phase of that process, can be considered, can be created. And that's not really just a consultation process. The employer would have a legal, and I would say a moral duty to go through those phases.
Okay, so there has to be some risk assessment done, for example, in the company to determine the level of exposure, and also identifying employees who must be vaccinated, because in today's world, what the pandemic has taught us, we don't all of us have to be in the office.
You put your finger on an important distinction there. We tend to, in this debate, have a one-size-fits-all. You know, it's either right or it's wrong. Your employer would, regardless of the Discovery decision, every employer would still have to work through this with their employees. There is no one-size-fits-all. It would really depend on the specific industry, on the alternatives available. Is home work from home available? You know, the employer would certainly, in my view, have a very important, very stringent duty to consider and explore those alternatives.
Yeah, now that would then suppose a company like Discovery or any other one who wants to do so will have to have a comprehensive vaccination plan with appropriate measures defined there after appropriate consultation, or am I wrong?
You're very correct, and that is one of the concerning developments that we see, and that I hope the Discovery decision corrects, where it's understandable, but we find nationwide, in my consulting in the last 3 months, we've seen where employers sit back, they wait for a little bit more information, they wait for a court case, they wait for guidance from somewhere else, and this is not a good leadership. It's not good management, and it could lead to all sorts of legal and commercial problems. You have to have a policy. Whatever the policy says, you have to have a comprehensive, layered policy in place.
Yeah, and just very briefly, I know you're not a labor expert as such, but I can see trade unions arguing, for example, as we tackle this issue as a country, that you can't bully the workforce.
Well, in a sense, they're correct. You can't bully the workforce, and you shouldn't. And the employer that understands business wouldn't bully their workforce. But it's a two-way street. The employees should also not bully the employer. This is a difficult process. It's something that we as a society will have to find our boundaries. We'll have to find the correct boundaries for where do these fence lines run. And that goes for all sides in the debate.
Yeah, because none of us have ever been here. None of us have ever been in the middle of such a deadly pandemic.
No, we've not.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's Andre Vlok, a conflict and employment dispute specialist, talking more about the issue of making COVID-19 vaccinations mandatory. Of course, following on the news that came out yesterday from Discovery, the medical aid giant, that from January is going to enforce mandatory COVID-19 vaccination in states. It's not a straightforward process. There are a number of things and measures that have to be in place for that to be successful. Okay.